Welcome, welcome. It's time for the Legal Lounge. CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com. I'm joined by Richard Nixon. He's a practicing attorney, author, America, An Illusion of Freedom, scientist, constitutional scholar. And we're here to talk about all things legal, all things constitutional here on a Tuesday here. CRN Digital Talk Radio replays throughout the week, also available on Facebook, facebook.com/CRNTalk. Facebook.com/CRNTalk. Just scroll down to videos. I'm monitoring the chat room right now if you have any questions for Richard, or give us a call, 818-818-6401. That's 818-818-6401. And Richard, sir, how are you doing today?
Just fine. I guess I'm having gone through the blues here a little bit. We lost another great American.
Yes, we did. Yes, I've been watching, all of us have been glued in the office today watching the funeral of one George Herbert Walker Bush, Bush 41 as he's known, President of the United States from 1988 to 1992. And just look at this bio. Look at the legacy of George Herbert Walker Bush. He was a war hero. He enlisted in the Navy shortly after Pearl Harbor at age 17, and he became the youngest naval aviator in the history of that service at that time, and that record, which still stands, was shot down and survived a very harrowing experience in World War II. After that, he attended Yale, where he was captain of the Yale baseball team.
Of course.
There was a great photo circulating around of him shaking hands with Babe Ruth. After that, he was a member of Congress, and then he also made his fortune in the oil business before joining Congress. Then became ambassador to China, head of the CIA, vice president under Ronald Reagan, and then, of course, president. And he will surely be missed. And what are your thoughts on George Herbert Walker Bush?
Well, frankly, he was not absolutely my favorite, because he criticized Ronald Reagan, who was my favorite, a little bit too much. When he talked about Reagan's policies regarding economics, he called it voodoo economics, and I disagreed with that. Yeah, but that was in the heat of battle, so to speak.
It was in the heat of in combat, you might say, yes, during the primaries. But afterwards, they buried the hatchet, and Mr. Ronald Reagan selected George Herbert Walker Bush as his running mate, and they secured 2 terms. And one thing I think that his legacy needs to be noted for is that he oversaw, him and Reagan before him oversaw the end of the Cold War.
Yes,
and I think handled that masterfully.
Absolutely. And he also appointed one of my favorite Supreme Court justices, Justice Thomas.
Yeah, real fast, just his legacy for the Supreme Court, a legacy that endures, is he appointed David Souter to replace William Brenner, and Clarence Thomas, who replaced Thurgood Marshall. And what are your thoughts on those two justices, Richard?
Well, I think Souter turned out to be far more liberal than 41 thought. But Thomas, I think, is true to form. He's still retained his conservative bona fides and is just waiting to overturn Roe versus Wade.
Yeah, it's Justice Thomas, definitely the heir apparent to Justice Scalia, even though he's a little bit less loquacious than Justice Scalia, but both come to the law with a very textualist bent. So we'll be right back, you guys. We're going to talk about the legacy of George Herbert Walker Bush, and also we're going to play some sound, which I think is going to enlighten our audience on what we're going to cover this episode. So you guys stay with us here in the Legal Lounge. Richard Nixon live. This is CRN Digital Talk Radio, streaming live coast to coast and around the world on CRN Digital Talk. That's CRNTalk.com, Facebook.com/CRNTalk. Also, check out our YouTube channels. Go to YouTube.com, search for CRN Digital Talk, and subscribe to Richard Nixon Live for this episode and previous sessions of this fantastic broadcast. So stay with us, you guys. This is Legal Lounge, Richard Nixon Live.
Howdy, folks. Colonel Sanders here with a big old holiday radio commercial for KFC. Wrapping presents is a lot of work, so let the Colonel do the cooking tonight. I'm making KFC $20 fill-ups. That's 8 pieces of delicious Kentucky Fried Chicken, 2 large mashed potatoes and gravy, a large coleslaw, and 4 biscuits for just $20. I'll even wrap it for you. The wrapping is just a bucket, but it's a swell-looking bucket. KFC, it's finger-licking good. Prices and participation may vary. Tax and substitutions extra.
What's in store this holiday at your local Staples?
It's a printer wonderland.
Because right now at Staples, save $150 on the Epson EcoTank 4750.
Epson EcoTank printers come with up to 2 years of ink right in the box.
That's up to 2 years worth of printed reports, proposals, and letters to Santa.
Up to 11,000 pages.
Plus, trade in your old printer and get another $50 off.
Staples, there's a whole lot in store this holiday.
Ends 12/8/18. See associate for details.
Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge on CRN Digital Talk Radio. That's crntalk.com, facebook.com/CRN Talk. Give us a call, 818-818-6401. Shoot Richard an email, richardnixon@crntalk.com. Visit Richard's website, www.pres37th.wix.com/America. That's www.pres37th.wix.com/America, where you can order his fantastic book, America, An Illusion of Freedom. And so what we want to cover today is something that's been spoken about a lot recently. It's been around, this concept has been around since the 70s at least. We're talking about political correctness. And it was fortuitous, Richard, because we talked about this last week.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, last week you put my attention onto a commencement address that George Herbert Walker Bush gave to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor in 1991. This is seen by over 55,000 people in the stadium, in the big house, as they call it, in Michigan. And we're going to go ahead and play some sound from that right now. So let's get cut 34 up here real fast.
On the 200th anniversary of our Bill of Rights, we find free speech under assault throughout the United States, including on some college campuses. The notion of political correctness has ignited controversy across the land. And although the movement arises from the laudable desire to sweep away the debris of racism and sexism and hatred, it replaces old prejudice with new ones. It declares certain topics off limits, certain expression off limits, even certain gestures off limits. What began as a crusade for civility has soured into a cause of conflict and even censorship. Disputants treat sheer force, getting their foes punished or expelled, for instance, as a substitute for the power of ideas. Throughout history, attempts to micromanage casual conversation have only incited distrust. They've invited people to look for an insult in every word, gesture, action. And in their own Orwellian way, crusades that demand correct behavior crush diversity in the name of diversity.
There it is. George Herbert Walker Bush, president at the time, 1991, in the University of Michigan commencement speech. And Richard, this is a topic that's close to your heart. What's your critique of that address right there?
Well, I was just stunned that I tend to think, a lot of us, that the problems that we face today are our problems and current. I was stunned to realize that we had the same concerns, at least President Bush did, 41, back in 1991, and he hit it right on the head. For instance, certain ideas are not permitted to be spoken of today. Number one is evolution. The other one is global warming. In other words, there's only one accepted version, and you'll never hear the matter debated. As a lawyer, I'm amazed that we don't have more debates on whether or not man caused global warming, and if so, to what extent. If you deny that, you're called a denier. And the same thing with evolution. We just assume, because we've been told over and over, that we have ape ancestors and we were not created separate from the apes. And if you argue the other, even though the evidence goes the other way, you're laughed off the stage.
I think one of just reading that, as you're reading the text of this address that President George Herbert Walker Bush gave in 1991, I think his central thesis is that the stifling of diversity of speech,
yes,
equates to a lack of diversity of thought. And
right.
So the Orwellian uses that language, Orwellian,
yes.
Where what does Orwellian mean for audience who's haven't heard the term
Well,
before?
again, it gets back to that book that was written, I believe, in 1954, maybe, by a Brit, George Orwell. And he basically talked about, in the future, he expected the future. The name of the book was 1984, and he expected that by 1984, up would be down, left would be right, and in other words, everything lost its true bearing in terms of definitions. And of course, a lot of that has come to pass because, as number 41 said here, in the interest of creating diversity, they have stifled diversity. They'll only let certain positions be heard, even though they're claiming they want more ideas heard.
Yeah, I mean, I see this a lot with my brother and sisters on the left, and here's another quote from that speech. What began as a crusade for civility has soured into a cause of conflict and even censorship. The disputants treat sheer force, getting their foes punished or expelled, for instance, as a substitute for the power of ideas. And this is, as someone who's on a college campus a lot, Richard, it seems that, college campuses for time immemorial have been a place where it's encouraged debate. And now you're seeing all these different college campuses, having speakers disinvited and disciplining students for espousing views that go against kind of the current intelligentsia of academia.
I can remember in the day when I was attending Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan, we had invited a communist speaker from Moscow, Russia. And a lot of us were saying, why do we allow those people to have our microphones when they don't allow us to have theirs? It's just unfair. Well, the argument was, let him speak, let him say what he has to say. Most of the time there'll be someone to counter that. And so the good remedy for bad speech, if you will, is more speech.
Yeah.
So our philosophy is we don't censor them. Well, it's totally different now. There's a certain accepted version of facts, and counterfacts cannot be heard.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, there was a big controversy recently on the college that I attended, and I know this has been an issue on going back to the 60s, is that the student body was really reticent to have any sort of military on campus, be it recruiters or be it just general information. They're saying, you're going to militarize the campus. But a professor who had a very interesting thought on that. He said that, no, you're not going to militarize the campus, you're going to liberalize the military.
Exactly.
Because, when you have a diversity of thought, you want to have that kind of debate.
Yes, and you've hit the precise word there, Mike, and that is diversity in a vacuum is not necessarily dispositive of anything. It's diversity of thought that of all countries, this country should cherish and welcome. But as again, it's a cliche now, but since we've repeated it so many times, but certain views are simply not tolerated in the guise of tolerance. And it's just, again, it gets back to Orwellian kind of thinking where things are backward and they must be righted.
Yeah, and this is interesting. This kind of comes down to, a theme of this show right now is that when diversity becomes divisive. And
absolutely.
That's what the subheading on the when you see the text of George H.W. Bush's speech at Ann Arbor, Michigan at the commencement address is oftentimes it's subtitled "When Diversity Becomes Divisive." And we're going to talk more about this. We have two great articles we're going to talk about to compare and contrast, and we're going to talk about all sorts of things. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, give us a call, 818-818-6401. That's 818-818-6401. Also, send us a line on the chat room right now on Facebook. We're broadcasting live on Facebook Live. Just go to facebook.com/CRNTalk/videos. And I see you have people there. Thanks, Bruce, for the compliment. And Val, thank you for watching. We'll be right back, you guys. Stick around. Richard Nixon in the Legal Lounge on CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com, broadcasting coast to coast and around the world.
For the getaway of your dreams, come to Hawaii's Playground, Ka'anapali Beach Resort, on the fun side of Maui, where the world comes to play. Find your spot on Ka'anapali Beach with 3 miles of white sand, 12 resort properties, 2 golf courses, and 2 shopping centers. Enjoy the playground of Hawaii's ancient royalty. Ka'anapali Beach Resort is Hawaii's original master plan destination resort and home of the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. With views of 2 neighboring islands, you can breathe in the land's natural beauty from your favorite resort or golf fairway. Come experience Ka'anapali's own special brand of Hawaiian hospitality with world-class dining, relaxing resorts, water sports, and activities of every kind. For romantic, family, and great friend getaways, discover the options of Ka'anapali Beach Resort, where the world comes to play. Plan your getaway today. Visit Ka'anapaliResort.com. That's KAANAPALI Resort.com.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, all great writers. And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet, so make a free call to Page Publishing. Their expert staff can help you turn your book idea into a real book, a masterpiece that could someday make the bestseller list in hard copy and digitally all across the world. Page Publishing can help you completely take your idea for a book, write it, and publish it. So if you want to join the ranks of some of the most famous authors in the world, call now for a free information kit. Turn your book idea into publishing gold. Make a free call right now to Page Publishing.
800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. That's 800-378-3212.
The smartest way for you to get the lowest prices on your plane tickets, domestic or international, is to call SmartFares first or last, but you've got to call us before you book your plane tickets. Fly anywhere in the world, fly anywhere in the U.S., and SmartFares can save you up to 75% on your plane tickets. We have the lowest airline ticket prices on over 500 airlines, and you've got a great 12-hour free cancellation window. Plus, with our live agent help, you can always get fast help and fast answers. So on your next trip, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, how about right now? Pick up your phone and call SmartFares, plus save up to 75% on your plane reservation. So call right now. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644.
And we are back. Richard Nixon live, broadcasting coast to coast and around the world. CRN Digital Talk Radio. We're in the Legal Lounge here every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Replays throughout the weekend, also available on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/CRN Digital Talk. That's our channel. All of our past sessions are available there. Check out Richard's website, www.pres37th.wix.com/America. His book, America, Illusion of Freedom, is available there, also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, as well as iTunes. It's a fantastic read. It reads like a novel. Make sure to check it out. Makes a perfect Christmas gift. Just saying. Richard, this is an interesting quote that I want to illuminate from that George H.W. Bush commencement address. So we should be where is it? Oh, did I lose it? No, right here. We all should be alarmed at the rise of intolerance in our land and by the growing tendency to use intimidation rather than reason in settling disputes. Neighbors who disagree no longer settle matters over a cup of coffee. They hire lawyers and they go to court. And I don't want to derogate lawyers here, but so there's two interesting articles that you brought to my attention that talk about what we're talking about today. First one's by Michelle Goodwin. She's a professor of law at the University of California at Irvine. Give us the background on that, Richard.
Yes, well, Michelle is a professor of law. She's earned her credentials for sure. She writes an article, 90% of it is talking about abortion, and not the morality or immorality of abortion, but its safety compared to a woman's giving birth. So she goes on for a major portion of her article talking about the safety of abortions. And then she talks about the fact that the Supreme Court doesn't really reflect the America it serves. That is to say, there isn't much diversity on the Supreme Court. They're mostly men, 3 women, only 1 black man, or only one person of color, if you will. But she seems to think that if there were more women on the court, or in fact if they were all women, then it would certainly give rise to greater abortions, or at least litigation involving abortions would be resolved in favor of women. And I think that it's that kind of thinking that quite frankly surprises me, coming from a lawyer who should know both sides, who should know how to argue, and actually employs stereotypical values by not recognizing that not all women vote the same way. At least half the country is pro-abortion, and The other half is anti-abortion, and she totally forgets the Roe versus Wade case, which basically made abortion, quite frankly, legal. And all 9 people on the court were men. Granted, it was 7-2. Rehnquist and White were the dissenters. But in any event, men found the right to an abortion for women, so it seems to belie her whole philosophy that we simply need more women because they all think alike.
That stereotypical thinking that you talked about there, Richard, that's interesting. And from a social scientific perspective, there's a theory called communication accommodation that, takes stereotypes into account, and that's used as a pejorative, whereas, by using stereotypes, you're really insulting the intellectual honesty and integrity of people you're using those stereotypes to, and also the people that are using stereotypes in an argument. And that's very interesting. I understand. Diversity could be important for thought, but it also leads to identity politics, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And my semantics teacher, Senator Hayakawa, taught a book on semantics, and he argued, of course, that stereotypical thinking was a lazy way of not having to know the individual. That if you can identify this person as a member of a particular group, a tribe, you could automatically then know what this person will do in the future. And again, he argues, for instance, the one man says to his buddy, if she weren't a waitress, I'd marry her. Yeah. And the friend says, why do you say that? He said, well, because I know how waitresses are. No, you don't. You don't know that waitress. It's that kind of thinking that, quite frankly, I'm surprised that Miss Goodwin employs.
Yeah, I mean, some of the best women I know are waitresses. I mean, come on. And I think we're onto something here. And I think that George Herbert Walker Bush, of course, rest in peace. He was talking about not only political correctness in society at large, but also between the parties as well, and tribalism between the two parties at the time. I think when he says about neighbors who disagreed no longer settle matters over a cup of coffee, they hired lawyers. I think he was also you could refer that to members of the legislative branch, where now
yes.
There's gone are the days of your favorite president Richard Nixon and Tib O'Neill sitting down for a beer. That's
yes.
Now it's become tribalism is in the culture at large, but also in our leadership as well. So you guys stick around, and if you have any thoughts about this, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, 818-818-6401. Also, check us out in the chat room right there. It's facebook.com. .com/CRN-Talk. That's facebook.com/CRN-Talk. And we'll be right back right after the break. More Richard Nixon Live in the Legal Lounge, CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com.
You're experiencing pain, back pain, shoulder, elbow, or hand pain, pain from a sports injury. If so, schedule a visit with Dr. Michael Sheps, the leading expert in laser therapy for pain management. Call 310-873-4422 or go to drsheps.com. Experience Epic T, the breakthrough laser therapy system that Dr. Sheps developed to make you pain-free in less time. Laser therapy is a non-invasive, safe, and effective in-office procedure that penetrates deep into your skin without damaging the tissue. It perfectly targets areas of pain to promote fast, natural healing. Relax your muscles, ease muscle spasms, joint stiffness, and arthritis pain while increasing blood circulation. For over 25 years, Dr. Sheps has helped Olympic athletes and sports enthusiasts alike get back in the game. Schedule your visit with Dr. Sheps at his Brentwood office in California. Call 310-873-4422 or visit drsheps.com. That's DRSHEPS.com, 310-873-4422.
You check things all the time, like your email every 10 seconds, or your ex's Instagram. But what about checking something as important as your credit? Well, Discover makes it quick, easy, and best of all, free. Discover is now offering FICO credit scores to everyone for free, even if you're not a customer. And checking your score won't hurt your credit. We call it the Discover Credit Scorecard. And once you know your score, you should check to see if your current credit card is the best fit for you. Check your credit, compare your card. Go to discover.com/credit scorecard. Limitations apply.
Come to Angelo's and Vinci's Restaurante to see memorabilia of movie stars and theatrical magic right in downtown Fullerton, California. The Art of the Great Masters in an Italian town square complete with storefronts of old, Italian butchers and cheesemongers, fruit and wine vendors, seamstresses showing their wares, the romance of Romeo and Juliet. Find our mystical Room of the Moon, and don't forget King Kong, Dracula, Frankenstein, and who knows what awaits you in the wine cellar. Enjoy the great food. We hand stuff our pastas, roll each and every tortellini, bake our own bread, and make all of our sauce is fresh from our private stock of Sicilian family recipes. Pasta to seafood, chicken to award-winning pizzas, tiramisu flown in from Rome. If you can't find something on our menu to tempt you, you don't like Italian food. Try our Sunday brunch, all you can eat, just $21.95. And Angelo's and Vinci's has been named the best Italian restaurant in Orange County 2 years in a row, and our owner has been named Restaurateur of the Year. Angelo's and Vinci's, Fullerton, California, 714-879-4022 or angelosandvinci's.com.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call myflightsearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call myflightsearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call myflightsearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call myflightsearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
Destination South Point. 11 great restaurants, bingo, bowling, movies, race books, sports books, spa, live entertainment, oversized rooms, and the rates unbeatable. The South Point Las Vegas. Book now. Online at southpointcasino.com or call 866-791-7626. southpointcasino.com or call 866-791-7626. At the South Point Las Vegas, you're always a winner.
We are back. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge here on CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com. I'm joined by Mr. Richard Nixon, Esquire. He's a practicing attorney, noted author of America, An Illusion of Freedom, a veteran. Thank you for your service, Richard.
You're so welcome. And
also just an amazing, amazing textualist scholar of the Constitution. And we were talking about George H.W. Bush, and that led us to talk about diversity. And the question, is diversity divisive? And I want to talk about something, just to finish up with this Michelle Goodwin article, UCI professor of law, about tribes over individuals. And I think that was another theme of that great speech that we heard from former President Bush, that we've become groups rather than people. And when people become groups, we tend to kind of isolate other people. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and that's what makes it so difficult, because the whole point of citizenship, if you will, where you're either naturalized and accept the values of America, or you're born of parents who already have the American values, if you will, and will instill them in the children. By having a third category, that's people coming from other countries who just happen to be born here, we are actually importing diversity and separation, and rather than a common goal.
That's interesting, and you brought up a fascinating point when we were prepping for the show before about what's the, in the United States we're considered citizens.
Yes.
In the UK and other monarchist countries, they're considered subjects.
Yes.
Expand on that, please.
Well, you see, and also one of the main men, if you will, besides Thomas Jefferson, at least in England, was Blackstone. He's quoted by all the lawyers as the main authority on things legal. He talked about what seemed to be diversity. However, he was talking about subjects, not citizens. He was very careful to describe the people born in England as subjects. And there's a big difference between subjects and citizens. And we, that is to say, when this country was founded, we disavowed any allegiance to being subjects. We declared ourselves citizens. And citizens require, in order to be ruled, they require the consent of the governed. That's in our Declaration of Independence, that we consent. And when we give up our consent, the government is no longer in control. And that's vastly different than what is held in these feudalist countries like England.
The consent to be governed, is that Hobbes or is that Locke? I can't remember. It's one of the two.
Well, I don't know either.
Yeah, one of the two. I'm pretty sure it's Hobbes. It could be the Leviathan concept. For all our philosophy majors out there, please let us know. And that's very interesting. It's because when you're a subject, that means your sovereignty, you're not a sovereign citizen. You are subject to another.
Absolutely.
Whereas, as citizens, we are sovereign individuals. The only allegiance we have is to our great nation, not to an individual person.
Exactly. And again, that's what one of the arguments that most of these people who claim anyone born here is automatically a citizen, they miss that very interesting nuance there, that there's a difference between being in England as a subject and being an American as a citizen.
Fascinating. And there's another article that we want to discuss. This is by Mr. Edward J. Eller. That's Edward J. Eller. He's a professor at California State University, San Bernardino, just down the road. And he has an interesting article about diversity as well, Richard.
Yes, he does. And one of the things he says that I think is very important is that the American character is defined only by its unlimited acceptance of diversity. He's claiming that that's what is de rigueur today, is that the more diverse we are, the more American we are, when in fact that is not true. That in fact the more diverse we are, the more we deviate from each other, and how we focus on our differences rather than our common goals in this country. Again, this country was founded on the idea that we believe a particular idea. It doesn't come from your nationality. It doesn't matter where you came from. But can you accept these ideas that this country stands for, namely liberty and freedom? And if you can, it doesn't matter where you came from. But if we start breaking people down into groups, they necessarily clash, and we emphasize their differences rather than their similarities.
Yeah, because we're all Americans.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what diversity in terms of ethnic diversity in the country, I think, is a good thing. I mean, it's a melting pot. I believe that our country is well served for it. But a diversity, but we're Americans first.
And anyone out there who's listened to President Trump's speeches, I can tell within the last 2 minutes that what he's going to say. He's back into, we all bleed red, white, and blue. We all believe in God, etc. These are words of uniting us, not separating us. He doesn't ever talk about the fact that this race is better or this is less or this nationality. He does his best to unite us. And all these diversity things, although they might be well-intentioned, like 41 has said, they intended to get rid of racism and other hatred kind of things, they've just created more prejudices than they've solved.
And also, they've created some politically correct dogmas that can be a little bit,
yes,
a little bit negative. What do you mean? What does he mean by politically correct dogmas?
Well, again, we're talking about whether it's evolution. It's an accepted fact. I put facts in air quotes because it's not a fact that we necessarily came from apes or we have a common ancestor in the animal kingdom. Many of us believe that we were created just as we are, as human beings. The other problem, of course, is global warming. It's assumed that today that if you're enlightened, you know that man created the problems we have today, like hurricanes and earthquakes and so on. That's all due to man's activity, when all the empirical data goes against that. Detroit and Chicago 10,000 years ago were under a mile of ice. How did that melt? It wasn't General Motors or Exxon that created, that melted that ice. It was the sun. It was nature.
Very, very interesting. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns about that, if you want to debate Richard about these issues, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, 818-818-6401. That's 818-818-6401. And also shoot us an email, richardnixon@crntalk.com. That's richardnixon@crntalk.com. Also check out his website, www.pres37th.wix.com/America, where you can order his fantastic book, America, An Illusion of Freedom, available also on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and iTunes. Makes a great stocking stuffer. And you guys, we'll be right back. We're going to talk more about diversity as divisiveness, about PC culture, and maybe if we have time, we're going to get to the Fifth Amendment. There's something in the news about that might need some discussion and explanation. So stick around with Richard Nixon. He's an attorney. He's a scientist, constitutional scholar. We'll be right back, you guys. Stay with us. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge on CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com.
Give Joy, Get Joy at Kohl's Friends and Family Sale. Only once a year. Take an extra 25% off. Give Joy with 60 to 70% off fine jewelry. Give an Instant Pot or Beats headphones. And get Joy with Kohl's Cash. Plus, snap a free picture in-store with Santa Sunday from 1 to 3 p.m. Give Joy, Get Joy at Kohl's. Select styles 25% offer valid November 29th through December 8th with promo code THANKYOU25. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohls.com for details.
The job of printing your holiday cards to Staples, and you'll receive big savings.
Because now at Staples, you get 20% off custom holiday cards and invitations. Plus, when you spend $50 on custom printing, you'll receive a $15 print coupon.
So, happy holiday to you.
Staples. There's a whole lot in store this holiday.
Exclusions apply. Valid in-store only. See associate for details. Ends 12/29/18.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
We are back. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge, CRN Digital Talk Radio at CRNTalk.com, streaming live coast to coast and around the world on CRNTalk.com. Also available on Facebook, Facebook.com/CRNTalk. And this came to my attention when we're discussing what we're going to speak about today. This is from The Guardian. And The Guardian, for all of our listeners who are not aware, is one of the most left-wing newspapers in the world. It's based out of London. And this is the title of this article is called "Diversity is Divisive," and this is really interesting to the topic. This is not necessarily a right or left issue. And a key quote stuck out to me. It says, "Whilst people from ethnic minority backgrounds are today less likely to confront old-fashioned racism, they are much more likely to confront multicultural policies and practices that racialize them. The principle of equality, that all people should be treated the same regardless of their skin color or ethnic background, has now been replaced with the principle of diversity, where all cultural identities must be given public recognition. Whilst this sounds nice and inclusive in principle, the overall effect is that people are being treated differently, which fuels a sense of exclusion." And I think that really hits the nail on the head, and that really speaks to what former President Bush said too.
Absolutely. And as Dr. Erler, that we discussed momentarily, says, that diversity, of course, marches under the banner of tolerance, but is a bastion of intolerance. It enforces its ideological liberalism with an iron fist that is driven by political correctness, the most ingenious and insidious device for suppressing freedom of speech and political dissent ever invented.
Wow, that's strong words right there.
Absolutely.
I like the emphasis there too, Richard. And just researching political correctness, where that term came from, and it initially came out of the feminist movement, where it was kind of a subversive term, and it's been co-opted by a lot of other different groups out there. And it's political correctness. I mean, we're seeing it pretty much everywhere in the public space now. And I think that one of Donald Trump's one of the reasons that he was so successful in his campaign and in his election is that he rejected political correctness, which I think a lot of citizens across this nation have rejected.
Yes, and along that point, Again, Professor Erler says that today, any Republican charged or implicated with racism, however tendacious, outrageous, implausible, exaggerated, or false the charge or implication may be, will quickly surrender. However, only President Trump seems undeterred by the tyrannous threat that rests at the core of political correctness.
And there's lots of scholarly articles about political correctness, and available on Google Scholar. If you're in your library, it's fascinating material to study as well, from a political perspective, a logical perspective, and a philosophical perspective. But yeah, I mean, political. I mean, some say it's run amok. I mean, we have people on college campuses dictating what can be said and what can't be said. Do you see this in law as well?
I do, and in fact, it's stunning because we of all people, lawyers, we're taught in law school, at least we were, that words mean something, and we've allowed words and people who use words to simply subvert the obvious true meaning of the words, and it's so consistent with George Orwell and his prediction as to what would happen. We're more concerned with winning and what result we want, so we twist the words to give us that result. Instead of going by what the words are and amending the Constitution as the Founding Fathers intended, namely through Article 5, we simply do it through the courts. Mm-hmm. And as the professor says, birthright citizenship contributes to a borderless world and contributes to even more diversity. The irony there is you're importing your diversity. It's bad enough to have diversity between existing members of society and citizens. Now we're even importing diversity to make matters even worse, to create even more tribes.
Yeah, instead of being inclusive, it's become exclusive. And I think that that is not what the kind of fabric that leads to a healthy kind of homogeny that we're seeing here in this society.
Yes, and we mentioned earlier too that Blackstone, who's revered as the most Mr. Legal in terms of common law history going back to England, Blackstone freely admitted that birthright subjectship was an inheritance from the feudal system, which defined the relations of master and servant. Under the English common law, there were no citizens, only subjects. That is critical.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why our great forefathers wanted to throw that yoke of oppression off and become sovereigns themselves, not subject to anybody.
And as he goes on, the Declaration of Independence, however, proclaims that the American people are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown. Thus, it is clear that the American people rejected the common law as a basis for citizenship. What is substituted in place of perpetual allegiance to a king is the consent of the governed, with the clear implication that no individual can be ruled without his consent. Consent, not the incident of birth, is the basis for American citizenship.
There he goes. The power of the government is based upon the consent of its citizenry. It does not rely in its war powers, as many people say.
And as far as I know, this is the first time in history that people have gotten together and created such a government. I think most people out there listening, I'm sorry, but I think most of us don't know that this is the case.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys stick around. We'll be right back here in the Legal Lounge with Richard Nixon. It's here on Digital Talk Radio. We're going to come back, wrap things up. Be sure to give us a call, 818-818-6401. Thank you so much for joining us in the chat room as well. I see you there. We'll stick around, be right back, short break, and we'll be back more with the Legal Lounge. Richard Nixon on Siren Digital Talk Radio, SirenTalk.com.
Hey, Lorraine, do you realize that your mother, my mother-in-law, Chef Maria, has been serving Las Vegas since 1949?
Yes, I do, Dennis. That's when she first met Howard Hughes, who fell in love with her cooking.
And in 1955, she opened her first restaurant on Fremont Street.
Yes, dear. And another great customer was Liberace.
Wow. Then in 1962, while Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack were causing global excitement on the Las Vegas Strip, your family opened their second restaurant.
And in 1972, Elvis Presley began electrifying Las Vegas audiences and eating in our restaurant.
You know, Lorraine, this is quite a town. There's only one Las Vegas.
And there's only one Bootlegger Italian Bistro.
Folks, when you're in Las Vegas, come visit us. We'll make you feel like you're part of our family.
The Bootlegger Italian Bistro, conveniently located at 7700 Las Vegas Boulevard, South Strip. Visit our website at www.bootleggerlasvegas.com.
The following ad contains shocking material. Listener discretion is advised. Is someone in your family playing a dangerous game of Russian roulette? Over 43,000 people die a year from drug overdose. 120 people a day. 5 people every hour. 1 person every 12 minutes. 88,000 people die every year from alcohol abuse. Over 240 people a day. 10 an hour. 1 person every 6 minutes. Somebody you know may be next. Learn how to help someone you love get away from the drugs, alcohol, and bad influences. With the FMLA, people can take a leave of absence from their job and still keep it. Call Quit Drugs 321 now at 800-378-3315, 800-378-3315, 800-378-3315. That's 800-378-3315.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call myflightsearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call myflightsearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call myflightsearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call myflightsearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
And we are back. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge, CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com. Thank you so much for joining us. And listener Peter from Woodland Hills, he has a comment right here. He says, how is diversity bad? Diversity is what makes adaptation, and adaptation is in which Darwin based his thesis. And we're not talking about diversity in terms of skin color, race, religion, or creed. We're talking about diversity of thought and how society now, politically correct society, according to Richard, has limited that diversity of thought. And Richard, expand on that, please.
Well, yes. What I mean by diversity is that if we only permit one side of an argument to speak, then under the so-called politically correct diversity, diversity in and of itself in a vacuum, if you mean diversity of thought, that's wonderful. That's the whole point of this country. The more people have ideas, the more we can express their ideas, and the more we can then be educated and know how to vote and so on. So I'm not against diversity per se. What I am against is diversity that puts us in certain pigeonholes where you're black, you're white, you're Hispanic, and therefore we now know how you will vote on certain things because we've identified you. So it's that diversity that is divisive that I object to.
Yeah, and I think that what what George Herbert Walker Bush, what you said, what Mr. Elmer said, and also what Mrs. Marina Mirza said in the Guardian, they agree with you, and these are viewpoints from all over the political spectrum. That diversity of thought was what makes this great country exceptional. I think that if we had plenty of diversity of opinion during the constitutional conventions, and that debate is what gave us our founding.
Of course. And one other thing, if I may, Mike, that James Wilson, who's been in our history here, he's a signer of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and later a member of the Supreme Court. This is not to deride Bush 41, but he perfectly expressed the matter when he wrote, "In America there are citizens and no subjects." And what he's saying basically is just that. And that immigration policies should serve the interests of the American people and of the nation. They should not be viewed as acts of charity to the world. Putting America first is a rational goal. It is the essence of sovereignty, and the sovereign nation state is the only home of citizenship. as it is the only home of constitutional government. So again, if we're pro-constitution, if we're going to pretend to be constitutional people, citizens, then we have to recognize that we have to distinguish being a subject of the country and a citizen of the country.
And I think, just linguistically, when you think tribalism, you think that a tribe has a chief, and you are subject to that chief. And when we limit ourselves to tribes in this country, when we group ourselves up and we separate ourselves from others, we become subjects, not citizens. That's my 2 cents right there. That sounds pretty good to me.
No, I agree. I was simply going to comment on Peter's comment there that, again, he's talking about adaptation. We're not talking about that in the animal kingdom, so to speak. Yeah. We're talking about one group dividing up other people into groups so that it simplifies their having to deal with them. They don't have to deal with them as individuals. They just describe them as part of a tribe. And therefore, they don't have to deal with them as individuals.
And I think the great blessing and great lesson of our country is that we are all individuals.
Absolutely.
There you have it, folks. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all those comments on Facebook Live. Thank you for listening, you guys. Stick around. We'll be back next week. Every Tuesday, we're here in the Legal Lounge, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also replays throughout the weekend. So we love hearing from you guys. So shoot us an email at richardnixon@crntalk.com. Also, if any of you guys knew Richard during his time of service, stateside 63 to 65 or in Vietnam as a contractor and 68, give us a call here at the office, 818-818-6400, because we'd love to give you a free book. Richard, until next week, great show. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be back next week. Stay tuned for more fabulous CRN Digital Talk programming. And until next week, in the Legal Lounge, Richard Nixon Live, crntalk.com.